Hello, everyone. Welcome to the NTI PodTalk. My name is Dianne Kaler, and I'm the Director of Nutrition Therapy Institute. This PodTalk is our opportunity to have fun conversations with interesting people who have interesting things to say about nutrition, food, and health. I talk to NTI instructors, students and grads, to health industry professionals, to farmers, and anyone else who has an interest in nutritional wellness. While many of our listeners come from within the NTI community as students and grads, we also have prospective students who tune in. And to those listeners in particular, I hope you find that the people we talk to inspire you to finally make the jump to pursue your passion and come to school here at NTI. So without further ado, let's get on with the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the NTI PodTalk. This is Dianne Kaler, the Director of Nutrition Therapy Institute. And as you know, if you're a regular listener, we love having conversations with a variety of people. We talk to people within our immediate community, students, graduates, instructors, staff members sometimes, as well as people outside our immediate community. We like talking to people who raise food, who produce food and products, and we love talking to medical practitioners. And today we are lucky to have one of those medical practitioners on, Dr. Wanda Bedinghaus. And I'm going to let Dr. Bedinghaus tell us her background. But before I do that, I want to thank you so much for being here. It's a real pleasure to talk to you. One of my favorite conversations is usually with medical practitioners, so thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Diane. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to anybody about healing.
Yeah.
Many people want to know, how in the world did I get started in my medical career? So I'll give a brief little timeline. My original training was in pediatrics. I'm a board certified pediatrician. I practiced pediatrics for many years until I came to the point where I began to wonder, am I really helping these children and their families? And I got really disheartened with traditional medicine. And then I did a few other things, but eventually the doctor in me was calling me again. So I studied homeopathy and practiced homeopathy for about 10 years. And then one day, I don't know, your audience may not know, but homeopathy is not as common in this country as it is in Europe and India. It was hard to explain, and I still wanted to help people. So one day I found a book by Dr. Mark Hyman, who is considered one of the pioneers of functional medicine. And you know what? It made sense. It made sense. I thought, my God, why have I not known about this before? Because it was a part of the way I thought, how do you get to the root cause of the person's problem and really help them begin to remove the obstacles to healing so that they can really help their body, which already knows what to do if we just get out of the way. And so that is how I got started in functional medicine. And I'm certified in functional medicine by the Institute of Functional Medicine, and I love it. It makes sense to me, and I'm not embarrassed to tell people that I love what I do. So, yeah. And of course, nutrition is such a big part of it. So
sure,
that's my story.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what was what was your initial interest in wanting to become a doctor in the first place? Was it kind of did you have something in your life experience, your childhood experience, that wanted you to become a doctor in the first place?
Well, I must confess that my older brother probably did have an influence on me. Although from the get-go, I just was curious. I wanted to know how things work. And even when I was a child, I loved people. And even with my little playmates and schoolmates, I was always trying to do something to help them. And I was very interested in science and mathematics. And it just seemed a natural. I knew from a very young age that I wanted to be a doctor. And so I just put put my mind to it, got through all my studies and went to SMU for college, and then University of Texas Southwestern Medical School in Dallas. And I chose pediatrics because I like little kids. It was kind of like maybe I can have an impact on their life when they're very young, which is a big issue, I think, right now for us, Diane, because our children are really suffering and they're not well. And so that's, I just I feel that inner physician.
Yeah.
And, I like what I do. And
Yeah, I think the health status of children today is quite sad and quite shocking. There's some statistics out there that between 50 and 60% of children today have at least one chronic illness, if not more. And oftentimes chronic illnesses go together. So, and that is, I think, representative of so many problems in our society, whether it have to do with nutrition, loss of access to outside and physical activity because they've cut those kinds of things out of children's education, and even medical, healthcare, standard pediatric medical health care. So I completely agree with you that the better we can do with supporting the health of children, the better the health of the population at large will be, because obviously those children are going to grow up and be the ones who, are running the world. And we want to make sure that, or at least as much as possible, make sure that they're healthy to be able to make good decisions,
Absolutely. And I don't see a lot of children in my practice, which is kind of surprising, to be honest with you. But recently, with all the things that are going on in our country, I've just started thinking about it. I've been posting a lot on our Facebook page about kids if we don't take care of them. And from the very beginning, even preconception, all the way through gestation and how their brain develops and everything about them, and how they bond with a caretaker, which is usually the mother, that allows their brain to develop appropriately. And I could go on and on about that, and I don't want to get carried away, but I am deeply concerned about our children, and boy, it starts at home with nutrition. And let me just say one thing about my growing up years. I grew up in a small town in southeast Georgia, and my dad was a farmer, and he eventually kind of stopped doing direct farming, but he became an expert in onions. As a matter of fact, my father was the farmer who introduced the Vidalia onion to Vidalia, Georgia. And, everywhere he went, he was known for that. And we never had a meal without fresh sliced onions and tomatoes. I mean, breakfast included. So I grew up with plenty of fruits and veggies, and very little animal protein, but some. And so I feel like I got a good foundation, and we're just not seeing that today. And, I will do anything I can to help you and your colleagues and your students to bring nutrition back at the forefront. It should be.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you mentioned it, but that prenatal care and preconception care for both mom and dad, they both need to have robust health and good nutrient status before conceiving. And then during that pregnancy time, that's such it feels long when you're going through it, but it's a short period of time, short window of opportunity during which nutrition is so critically important for, as you say, brain development. But really all the milestones that are needed to be met during fetal development. And I just don't think people have enough awareness about that.
Yeah, and we just have to educate, to be a doctor, dossier, I think is the word, means to teach.
That's right.
And that's what I love to do. If I can enlighten one or two people about the importance of what they put into their body and how they live their life, I feel like my life has been worth it, worthwhile. And that's really what I want to do. And people forget all the beautiful foods that we have, okay? And it goes all the way back to farming. I think we had talked about this before, how we're treating our soil. Are we pouring poison into our soil and getting into the groundwater, and how that eventually just comes right through the plants into our body. So we have a lot of toxicity in our body that we have to eliminate. And I mean, it's just a cycle. And somewhere along the line, we have to stop that, get to the root cause of our problems. And in terms of food, it's many times is the agriculture industry. So.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. We, in our nutrition training program, we certainly advocate for prioritizing organically produced foods. And there's oftentimes this pushback, and I'm curious if you get pushback, because, organically produced foods are more expensive. And there are many reasons for that, but there's this kind of pushback that it doesn't really change the nutritional value of the food. And there is certainly debate about that. The research that I find shows that it does improve the nutritional value, but people counter that with their own sort of studies. But it is very clear that the contamination of those chemicals in organic or non-organic versus organic foods is higher. And I think that's a huge component of, nutrient density. Not only do we need to be eating foods that are high in nutrients, but that don't have a lot of chemical toxins associated with them. And the ones that have the chemical toxins associated with them probably have lower nutrient value. So, so we certainly advocate for that, promote that, but of course not everyone can afford organic foods, and there are issues with that. But do you get pushback from your patients, the people you work with? Do you recommend that they prioritize organic, and what kind of pushback do you get from that, or do they completely accept it?
Many of the people that I see are already a little bit more tuned in. Okay, so
Great,
they may be already trying to use organic foods.
Yeah.
Yes, some people do. And you know what? We eat too much.
Yeah.
Okay? Right. Our country eats too much. And therefore we have obesity. So if people would only realize that you can go to a holistic type grocery store here and buy a few things that are organic, okay, and that's sufficient. And then you could add a little grains if you're not sensitive to gluten. But yeah, I get a lot of pushback on food, and a lot of people have been abused by food, and they have abused food. Therefore they don't have a good relationship with food. So I have to really help them to try to look at food differently, and to be grateful for the food, and to eat slowly, chew a lot, and you won't eat as much, and then of course then your budget will be less because you're not buying. Junk food is expensive,
right? Yeah. It seems cheap. It seems cheap in the immediate, but once it adds up, and then once you add up all the health consequences, it definitely gets expensive.
Absolutely. I want people to get excited about food.
Yeah.
And teach children to be excited about all the different colors of fruits and vegetables, and take them shopping with you so they can pick out that beautiful red bell pepper, which is just fantastic. We got red and yellow and green and orange. They're available. I always try to increase the color in my diet, but yeah, it's so important. And it's the foundation of functional medicine, really. the lifestyle, and right up there is nutrition and all the other things, getting adequate sleep, exercise, having good, healthy relationships, and then having a sense of a spiritual nature of something, having a life purpose and having meaning in life. And that is really the foundation of functional medicine. And that's what makes it work, Just taking another vitamin pill is not going to do it. I mean,
absolutely. Yeah.
you need a few
Absolutely.
supplements sometimes. I
Right.
think you asked me what is one of the more common nutrient deficiencies, and I
Yeah.
think it's pretty well known that vitamin D,
Mhm.
almost everybody I test is low
Mhm.
or lower than what we recommend in functional medicine. Magnesium can be relatively low too, and all the other vitamins and minerals and cofactors that are important for good, healthy metabolism. We have to look at that. And if they're not getting enough, and if they can't digest their food because they got GI symptoms, and that's kind of my approach. I have to look at their GI system, because if they're not digesting their foods and then converting them to energy, we have to start there.
Mhm. Yeah, certainly. I think that holistic, a holistic functional approach to wellness and health must start with GI function, because as you say, if you can't properly digest your foods, absorb the nutrients, then that is going to compromise everything in the body, because all the cells in the body use those nutrients for their function. So that's certainly at the core. We certainly talk about that all the time in our educational program. So, and I'm sure you see that every day, where you're, the classic example is, someone who has some sort of mental health disorder, depression, fatigue, something like that. And you're like, all right, let's look at your gut. And they're like, wait a minute, my head's up here, my gut, it's like there's
They're
this.
connected.
Yeah. But people don't realize that.
I know.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important for doctors to be well informed. And unfortunately, I have patients come in who have terrible inflammatory bowel disease. They ask the doctor, well, what should my diet be? Well, it doesn't matter what you eat. And of course, I just cringe. But what do you mean it doesn't? It doesn't matter. It may be the cause of why you're having this issue of what you've been eating. Anyway, we just have, what I've also discovered, Dianne, is that I have to be patient and give them baby steps. I can tell when somebody's pushing back on me, and I've had patients actually drop out because they don't want to make those changes. So I've become a lot more patient with people and trying to give them little tiny baby step, do this for a few weeks and let's see how that goes. But I recommend an elimination diet for all my patients at the beginning. And sometimes they've already done some of it, but I said, let's clean the plate and see if any of these foods you're eating are causing any of your symptoms throughout your body: inflammation, achiness, brain fog, all the things that go with that. But
Sure. Yeah. And do you find that when they do that and then they start reintroducing and start noticing a reoccurrence of, symptoms or that kind of stuff, do you find that they're surprised? Like, oh, I had no idea. Are they? Yeah.
I felt great for 3 or 4 weeks, and then I splurged and had a pizza with cheese and tomato sauce and gluten.
Right.
And I didn't feel good the next day. And you know what it does? By doing the elimination diet, it kind of wakes your body up and your awareness, so that then you know that you don't feel good after eating that food. And then you can take it back out. And, sometimes months later, they might be able to tolerate a little bit of it if they're not allergic or have any kind of genetic problems with tolerating foods. But anyway, it's a work in progress, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of along those lines, I always find it interesting that people will say things like, well, I never had let's just say, I don't know, stuffy nose, make it real simple. And after they do an elimination, and then they start, reintroducing things either based on the recommendation of the sequential reintroduction, or as you say, they have a pizza or a piece of birthday cake at a family event or whatever. And then suddenly they develop a runny or a stuffy nose, and they're like, I never had this before. Like this diet changed and made my situation worse. And I always have to remind them, no, it's not that it's making it worse. It's just as you said, when you were eating these foods constantly, you were at a certain threshold where these symptoms may not have been at your level of recognition. And now you've just gotten to a baseline where you don't have them. And so now they're going to be more obvious. So, it's exactly what you just said. Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't notice that people adjust to not feeling great.
Right.
We all do that.
Yeah.
I do that sometimes, and I realize, my goodness, I haven't been eating regularly, or I've been eating on the run, or I'm in stress. Oh my God, stress has a huge impact on even the choices, I'm too tired to cook. I don't want to go to the store. I'll just order a pizza, or I'll stop by wherever, pick something up. And we all do that. I'm certainly not a purist. I do the best I can, but I'm aware, and I know when I eat something that makes me not feel good. I just can't tolerate some foods. I can't tolerate tomato sauce. I can eat a raw tomato, but I can't tolerate tomato sauce.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And you just have to pay attention. And the thing about helping people heal is for them to become aware of little red flags or little warning signs from their body.
Absolutely.
And to stop and say, what's going on here? Did I sleep 4 hours last night? Or is my stress, this high? So, it's all the systems working together, and they're all connected. And that's one thing people don't realize. And that's why in our traditional medicine, we've got a gastroenterologist, we've got a neurologist, cardiologist, a rheumatologist, dermatologist, but there's only one being, and all these systems work together. So that's why getting to the root cause of the problem begins to solve all those systematic issues, from your brain to your endocrine system. So anyway, I get excited. You turn me on. I get excited about this, and I can't help myself, because I just want people to know and people say, well, functional medicine is too expensive. Well, that's not true. Okay.
Yeah.
So we get people better a whole lot faster, and they don't have to rely on medications forever. I'm not against traditional medicine. Sometimes prescription drugs can be life-saving for people, but not in terms of chronic disease. Has traditional medicine been that great? Okay. You can't keep just adding another drug and another drug to combat the side effects of the original drug without ever getting to the why is this person sick in the beginning. So, and I appreciate you and all the wonderful nutritionists out there who are really trying to help. And functional medicine doctors need nutritionists. Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know everything, and I wouldn't even try to know everything, but we need you, and we need you to train and teach a lot of people, men and women. I know many times it's more women than men, but we need you. So I just want to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing, and so we can support one another.
Yeah. Well, I completely agree with you that, nutrition therapists work, it is a very good fit to work with functional medical practitioners, because, you're working with your patients. The nutrition aspect sometimes needs a little bit different type of attention. And that's something that a nutrition therapist can do, you know, if they've got all the credentials and the credibility and the training, that is something that they can do as part of a practice like yours and others. And I'm always advocating for functional doctors and other kind of medical practitioners in the functional realm to hire nutrition therapists, because it greatly improves the ability for those medical doctors to provide the services that they do to their patients. So thank you for bringing that up without me prompting you to do it. And I'm completely in agreement with you about that. So,
You know, one of the things, there's a lot of solo practitioners like I am, and I may not need a nutritional therapist all the time, but
yeah.
to have a person involved in several practices so that you know, we're all going in the same direction. But you know, the reason it's important is because you can encourage the patient who gets discouraged. You know, they're not always going to call the doctor and say, I just can't do this. But the nutritional therapist said, I understand. Let's back up a little bit and see what are you having trouble with, and let me see if I can help you and encourage you. Sometimes I don't even know what to buy at the store or what to get rid of in their pantry, but it's absolutely vital. It's part of the whole system of functional medicine. So I congratulate you and encourage you, and hopefully we'll be able to support you in any way I can.
Yeah, well, thank you. You know, any functional medicine doctors out there listening to this, that's a great idea. Create some sort of a cooperative with functional medicine doctors, and then have, you know, 1, 2, 3, I don't know, nutrition therapists that move around and coordinate with them at their individual offices. That's a great idea. Let me know, whoever wants to start that.
I think it would work. You know, it's like, hey, I don't know what to do with this patient. Let me call the whatever the group is calling itself, and get them engaged with it. And then everybody's helping everybody. You know, that's who I am. I want everybody to work together.
Sure.
It's hard to get that to happen, but we keep trying.
Yeah, well, that's, you know, that same thing here. We just keep trying, keep doing what we're doing, keep, you know, improving the education that we provide, and enabling our students and our graduates to have that knowledge and the skill and the credibility to be effective in practices like that. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and you have a right to make a living doing this too.
Absolutely. Yes.
I'm all in favor of professionals being able to have a reasonable living.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, so you mentioned that you don't see children as much, or maybe not at all in your practice. What does your current practice look like? Who is your sort of target audience, and what kind of patients come to you?
I want to see children. I just don't think parents the kid doesn't seem sick. You know, I want to be preventative. You know, I'm very open to seeing kids, even babies. Right now, I would say, Dianne, that women, younger women are reaching out, which is exciting. You know, 25 to 55 is kind of a range, and I do see men too, but they're not as common. But they come in with a variety of complaints, a lot of GI issues, a lot of fatigue, insomnia, or I just don't feel good. Something is wrong. You know, or they have a lot of thyroid issues too. I think we overlook thyroid issues, and I usually test all my patients to be sure we're not dealing with autoimmunity. But yeah, that's my big. I guess you would say, my niche is women, but some men who may have been pushed by their wives, but not always. Okay, not always, and a few children. But I I'm going to really focus a lot more on children. I don't, I've been trying to do that, but trying to get the word out is not always easy. But I work with a functional medicine marketing company that's been absolutely fantastic
Great.
to help us. But and so my business partner is a manual therapist, and she is one of those amazing people
Mm-hmm.
knows the body, and she studies all the time. She just bought a book this thick on anatomy and physiology, and so she's very tuned in. So she sees a lot of the patients that I see. We have one practice, but we have our individual work.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she does craniosacral therapy and
Great.
medical massage, and again, she just knows the body. Even does visceral manipulation, for people
Yeah.
with chronic GI symptoms many times. But she's just one of those people that is very gifted and intuitive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And we should say where you're located, because while we are located in, the Denver metro area, Denver, Colorado, many of our listeners don't live in this area. So I want to make sure that everybody knows where you're located and how you practice. Like, do you only practice in person, or do you do online sort of telehealth?
Okay, my office is in Lakewood,
Mhm.
right off Wadsworth and 285. I like to see the first visit in person because I do a physical exam
Mhm.
and looking for nutritional clues to
Mhm.
deficiencies.
Mhm.
And then for lab work, which usually would be their second visit, I like for them to come in because there's so much paper, we're tossing lab reports around. But from then I can do telehealth.
Gotcha.
I have a license in Colorado, so I really can't see people outside of the state,
Mhm.
but I can see anybody in Colorado. And,
Mhm.
I can do an initial visit telehealth, but then I miss the physical exam, and
Yeah.
I'm a doctor. I like to look at people.
Sure. And that's critically important. I think the move for medical health to go completely online, I think there is something missing there, but
Yeah.
that's neither here nor there. But so I agree with you. I like that initial appointment being in person. All right. Well, this has been a fascinating conversation. I think you and I are in complete alignment about everything. So I was so happy to be able to connect with you and have you on. You mentioned that you have, I think you said a Facebook. Can you tell us how people can find you, your website, your social media
Sure.
stuff?
Our website is healingunleashed.com, just like it sounds, healingunleashed.com. And our Facebook group is called Functional Medicine for Everyone.
Love it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've
Great.
got almost 1,000 members, and I'll kind of post sometimes short videos or something that I think people ought to know about. And so we have a pretty good active group.
Nice.
And we do have a YouTube channel too,
Mhm.
Healing Unleashed. What else do we have? I think that's basically it. And then, I do webinars. I kind of stopped doing them more recently. It seems like everybody just got quiet, It's
Mhm.
like I think they're trying to figure out what they're going to do next. But yeah, I do a lot of educational things, and there are little webinar classes on my website.
Great.
We have a lot of stuff on the website, but
Great.
yeah, I want people to know,
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
let them know.
Right. Right. Sure. Education. All
Mhm.
right. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of what I'm sure is a very busy schedule. So we appreciate you being on. And was there anything that I neglected to ask you that you really wanted to say, or anything you wanted to share, just in case there was something I missed?
No, I don't
Okay.
think so.
Okay. All right. That's fine. That's fine. Great. All right. Well, then you take care, and have a great rest of your day. And I know people will enjoy listening to this. So thanks so much.
Okay, thank you so much, and best to you.
Thanks.
Namaste.
Thank you. You too. Bye. Hi there, and thanks for listening today. If what you heard today inspires you to want to pursue an education in holistic nutrition here at Nutrition Therapy Institute, please check us out on our website, ntischool.com, and reach out to us at admissions@ntischool.com. Our in-depth, comprehensive education is sure to provide you with the knowledge and skills you need to create the work of your dreams. Do something that feeds your passion, aligns with your values, and fuels your drive for a vital and meaningful life. It will be rewarding for yourself, your family, and anyone else with whom you interact. And with that, see you on the next episode.